Billy was amazing today.
You're so cute, so I can't help but work hard.
You're much better than the last guy.
I have more experience.
What is this conversation? I got home earlier than I expected, and was about to take a bath when I heard my husband and a young woman's voice. I peeked in through the crack and found Billy in the bathtub making out with a woman. Oh no, stop it! I could hear her happy voice, while I was speaking inside for a while. The woman changed her position and put her head on my husband's, and then I saw her face. At that moment, I gasped, Jody! Yes, the woman with whom he was having an affair was Jody, a woman I knew. She was Billy's niece. I'm a housewife who works in my spare time. Billy is a regular employee, a good husband at home, and a good worker. He has a good salary. I was living a good life, the envy of my friends. Then one day, things changed. My mother-in-law was injured and became wheelchair-bound. I would like my father-in-law to help my mother-in-law in such a case, but he's working, so it is difficult for him to visit my mother-in-law. That's why he asked me to take care of her. I had no choice. My husband's parents live in a suburb near the city, so we decided to stay with my mother-in-law for a while. Irene! Yes, what is it? I saw you cleaning the window earlier, but you didn't do it well enough. You need to redo it. And you haven't finished washing the rags on the porch. We need to get this stuff done quickly. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Billy's parents live in an old-fashioned house, inherited from his great-grandfather. It is such an old house that it is difficult to do housework. Even so, I'm trying my best to do it in my own way. My mother-in-law, however, is a terrible person. She takes advantage of the fact that she cannot move around in a wheelchair, and she orders me to do this and that. And she always complains and makes me redo things. She also asks us to do things that no one does nowadays. Still, she's Billy's mom, and I did my best to endure her bullying. But, what's this? I found a small bruise on my husband Billy's neck one night. Are you okay? What happened? When I pointed it out, Billy looked a little surprised and made a gesture to cover the bruise. A bad thought crossed my mind for a moment, as if I've touched upon something I shouldn't have. I didn't expect you to be in a bad company, but you might be in a very abusive one. There are even companies that are making a big deal about it in the real media. Maybe you are being abused by your boss every day. Maybe you even get noticed having a bruise like this. Are you sure you're okay? Even though I worry about this and that, Billy just says,
It's not that kind of company. I'll be fine.
Still, Billy is looking tired these days. He often falls asleep before I can even have a conversation with him. He says he's fine, but maybe he is having a hard time at work. Children who are bullied hide the fact that they are being bullied from their parents. And maybe Billy is being bullied at work. I was so worried that I asked my sister-in-law Hannah, whom I love very much, about it later. Hannah and I have always been close. People say that we don't get along with our husband's sisters, or that they work with our mother-in-law to bully us for the rest of our lives. But this is not the case for us. Hannah is one of the reasons why I'm able to withstand my mother-in-law's attitude. She listens to me very carefully. Hannah seems to have told my mother-in-law not to push me too hard. We have a good relationship. Hannah works as a secretary in a company that has a business relationship with Billy's company. And so, she told me that she has not heard any rumors. I see Billy at work sometimes, but it doesn't seem to be anything bad to worry about. I'm relieved that Billy is not being treated badly. But then, what was that thing this morning? He didn't have to hide it from me, his wife. But that day, Billy made a show of hiding it. I was still curious, so I looked at Billy's neck as he slept beside me. The bruise had faded. I noticed something. I have a feeling about the way the bruise had been gotten rid of. No way. Then it makes sense for him to hide the bruise. I noticed that Billy has been tired lately, that he falls asleep without talking to me. There is no way that this man... I have been trying so hard to be a good wife to Billy, and he has been trying so hard to be a good husband to me. But this betrayal... I am trying to hold back the urge to wake Billy up from his sleep right now and ask him a question. If I ask him now, he will just dodge my question. Besides, I still wanted to believe him. Then one day, I took my mother-in-law to the hospital, only to find that she had not brought her insurance card. Didn't you say you would bring your insurance card? I didn't say that. That's funny. My mother-in-law did say that she would bring it with her. She went to the trouble of showing me her insurance card and put it in her bag, but it's not there. Try to look again. I can't take out what's not there, so go get it. She's always picking on me. There's no point in arguing here. I gave up, left my mother-in-law in the waiting room, and went home to get the insurance card. When I got home, I saw a pair of heels I didn't recognize on the porch. They must be Billy's niece's shoes. Hannah's daughter is a junior in college and comes to visit sometime. She and my husband Billy get along well. But when I walked in the front door, I looked on the table and saw the insurance card. I sighed. My mother-in-law had left it on the table, thinking she had put it in her bag. More specifically, she left it in there on purpose, pretending to put it in her bag, to annoy me. I took the insurance card and hurried back to the hospital again, when I heard niece Jodie's screaming voice. What? But her scream sounded happy, like she was being spoiled. What is she doing? Is she just flirting with her boyfriend while my mother-in-law's away? Why did she go all the way to my mother-in-law's house? Just as I was thinking that, I heard a man's voice. That man sounded happy. It was definitely Billy, my husband. What's the meaning of all this? Billy should be at work right now. I was curious, so I went to the direction of the voice. But the voice was coming from the bathroom. You are amazing today!
You're so cute, so I can't help but work hard.
You're so much better than the last guy.
That's because he's not as experienced.
What is this conversation? When I peeked in through the crack, Billy and his niece Jodie were in the bath together. Jodie has her face on Billy's shoulder. This is cheating. Billy is having an affair. I doubted him once about the bruise, but I still wanted to believe in Billy. But I was wrong. I have endured the severe bullying of his mother because she's Billy's parent. And now, I'm shaking with anger that Billy has betrayed me like this. Hey, I'm better than Irene, right?
Of course. I don't need her anymore.
What did you say? I want to go in there and yell at him right now, but I'm holding back. I'm gonna leave, but I will give them some more punishment. Watch me. I will double the payback, but I can't do it alone. I'm the wife, but I'm in a weak position. If I make a fuss alone, they will assume I'm making up a lie, especially against my mother-in-law, because after all, it's her son and granddaughter. Of course, she would protect her son and grandchildren. She's the type who always picks on her daughter-in-law as much as she needs to. She may take advantage of this to make me look bad and kick me out. I don't care if he divorces me because he cheated on me, but I can't stand to be made the bad guy and kicked out. I talked to Hannah. Hannah and I are good friends, and I can talk to her about many things. But Hannah is technically on Billy's side. She might suddenly betray me. I was even going to threaten her that it was her daughter's problem too, but that turned out to be unnecessary. It was a needless worry, and she agreed to cooperate. Hannah had noticed that something was wrong with her daughter Jody. "I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed. I know you've been good to my mother. I wish I could tell her that. But she wants you to do it because you're her daughter-in-law. I'm sorry that my daughter cheated with my brother, and I'm sorry that they are both my relatives. I'm so sorry. I want to jump into the ocean." "So you will help me?" "Of course. We'll teach them a lesson." "Thank you. That would be great." On the day of my mother-in-law's hospital visit, I went home for some reason to drop her off. As I expected, Billy and Jody were in the bath as usual. They were talking in a sweet voice. "Are you okay?"
The plan will work.
"I know it's a little embarrassing to have the insurance pay us to make it look like an accident, but we're gonna need the money. What about the lady?"
We'll work together to blame Irene for the accident and get rid of her. No one will know we were together, so we can fool them. Irene is so stupid that she won't be able to argue much and will run away, I'm sure.
"I can't wait to live with you." What kind of stupid plan is that? You're the ones who will be running away in a big hurry. I will hide their clothes. I've already rigged the bath. I was so busy with my chores that no one will believe I'd actually been preparing for revenge. Billy is carefree in the bath, indulging in his foolish fantasy without knowing that. It's double payback. The water is probably getting hotter and hotter. I relentlessly increase the temperature.
The water is getting hot in my bathtub. Maybe it's a little too hot. I will turn out the cold water. Huh? There's no cold water. Is someone... Whoever took it out?
"No, it's too hot." That's when it happened.
Boom, boom, boom.
A loud popping sound came from somewhere.
What?
"It's hot." There's a scream. And then, the sound of splashing and hitting something. Screaming. Billy came running out, his body reddening. Then, Jody came out after him. "Mom?"
What are you doing?
"You're a disgrace." "Billy, I'm divorcing you." I showed them what I recorded on my phone. I made sure to record the two of them talking about their stupid plan in the bath.
No, you're wrong. There's a reason for this.
"You're saying there's a reason?" "It's because he forced me to."
Forced is a bad word. You're the one who asked me out.
"What do you mean? You're the one who asked me out. You're saying it's my fault?"
You're an adult. You're over 20 years old.
"Will you stop it?" Everyone there was shocked and looked in the direction of the boys. There was my mother-in-law. Why is my mother-in-law here? I know I had left her at the hospital, but there was something more surprising. My mother-in-law was standing. She's supposed to be in a wheelchair because she couldn't stand due to her leg injury. "Billy, Jody, stop it. I knew from the beginning you guys were shady. That's when I made a plan. I lied about being hurt, Billy, and I let you stay."
Huh?
"And then you just came right out with your tail between your legs. Pathetic. A dog in heat."
Damn it.
Billy lowered his head. I took pictures of old evidence when you two were sneaking around. I can take pictures with my phone too, you know. So there's no way you can say it's just this one time. Jody lost her strength and slumped down on the spot. Later, when all the commotion had died down and she had regained her posture, my mother-in-law spoke to me. This is where I learned the truth. I'm sorry for having acting this way and that to you. It was an attempt to distract you. Please forgive me. My mother-in-law's parents had divorced, and the reason was her father's unfaithfulness. So she raised her son not to cheat like her father, but still he cheated with his niece. My appearance when he was cheating on me was so painful for her that she kept me busy by being mean to me, so that I would not notice Billy's affair. But Irene, you are not the weak woman I thought you were. You took it into your own hands to punish them. You even got Hannah involved, so I decided to join you. So you did. My mother-in-law grinned. Billy jumped out of his skin at the sound, huh? Sound? Was that you? That's right. I was the one banging the pots and pans in the kitchen. Bam, bam! She laughed out loud. I laughed too, thinking of Billy's panic. My father-in-law heard about Billy's affair. Cheating alone is a mortal sin, but to have a niece as a partner is even more outrageous. Billy was disowned without excuse. Jody was scolded severely by her mother's family, expelled from college, and was grounded. Both of them are too embarrassed to talk to anyone because of what happened to them. I divorced Billy and went to the city to work. I was able to go back to the company I worked for before we got married. I still keep in touch with my mother-in-law and Hannah. My mother-in-law, Hannah, and I share an unspoken secret of my husband having an affair with his niece. People get along better when they have secrets to share, and the three of us have become good friends through all the turmoil.
My husband made his mistress pregnant and wanted a divorce. Me. Okay, but I'll take the eldest. Him. Why not all? Because he doesn't know.
Hey, what's going on? Suddenly Bob drops to one knee. What came next blew my mind.
I messed up big time. I got someone else pregnant. I want to be with her because she's younger. Let's end this.
I was floored. All right, I've got the divorce papers ready. Our daughter's coming with me.
What? Just take all of them.
Can't do that. See, the kids. I'm Miranda, rocking my late 40s as a stay-at-home mom. Bob and I first clicked at the office. We were desk buddies. His infectious energy and killer smile were always a highlight of my day. Not gonna lie, I had a bit of a crush. We got closer when we paired up for a project. As team lead, Bob crushed it, and I was right there backing him up. Post-project, we all hit a bar and he dropped a sweet line.
You've been a lifesaver, Miranda. Can't wait to team up again.
And count me in. I replied, on cloud 9. He then started asking me out for casual lunches, and before we knew it, we were an item. Dating the office heartthrob? Heck yes. Everything clicked, and in a couple of years, we tied the knot. The office gang, friends, family, everyone was stoked. Post-wedding, I hung up my office shoes, going all in on the home front because he was all about family first. I became a pro at home stuff and was super proud of my kitchen conquests. With his thumbs up, married life kicked off on a sweet note. Fast forward a year and boom, baby boy number 1 enters the scene. We were stoked. Our little guy got all the love. We weren't planning on the parent gig so soon, but man, it was fun. We were all about our firstborn. Couple of years roll by and son number 2 makes his debut. Double the joy, double the trouble. Handling 2 turbo toddlers wasn't easy. They were everywhere. Between their antics, I probably burned more calories than a marathon runner. Our kiddos grew up strong and spirited. Time flies. Kid 1's in 4th grade, Kid 2's not far behind in 2nd. Then, plot twist, I'm expecting again. Dropping the news on Bob, I go, "Looks like we're back to babyland."
We are?
His face was priceless. It had been a minute since our last baby adventure. We'd always daydreamed about having a little girl in the mix. Dreams came true, it's a girl. He was over the moon, and our boys instantly turned into overprotective big brothers. 3 kids in the house meant all hands on deck, so I snagged a part-time gig. With Bob climbing the career ladder and thinking about college funds, it was time to stash some cash. My days were a whirlwind. Whip up breakfast, pack Bob's grub, daycare drop-off for a girl, and then hustle to work. Post-work, it was pickup time, some grocery pit stops, and back to the kitchen. As for our boys, they were either tearing it up outside or turning the house upside down. Life was crazy, cooking, cleaning, calming baby cries, but I wouldn't change a thing. I was all in, giving my best both at home and as a mom. Man, how time zips by. Our youngest just hit the Big 10, and the older ones are growing like weeds. Our eldest is knee-deep in his junior year of high school, while the next in line is kickstarting his freshman journey. Parenting now is a tad easier than the wild early days, if I'm being honest. But with the boys in their teen turbulence and that classic "you can't tell me what to do" phase, we've traded one kind of challenge for another. Gone are the days of chasing toddlers, and in its place, we've got teenage drama. It's like swapping physical marathons for mental ones. I have to walk on eggshells around them, trying to find the balance between guiding and grading. Shoot them a piece of advice, and I'm met with those signature teenage eye rolls. Figuring out their mood triggers feels like defusing a bomb blindfolded. I've always looped in my husband for some teamwork on this, especially with college talk for our eldest around the corner. But instead of chipping in, lately he's been so aloof. Like, I'd dive into, "Hey, our eldest has his eyes on this college, and with his scores," and he'd hit me with,
Cool. Sounds great.
"Wait, what?"
I said that sounds great.
I didn't even finish.
My bad. But he's got this.
Okay, time out. Does "got this" mean he's not concerned? Man, I wish he'd give more than these half-baked replies. Every time the kids pop into our conversation, he's mentally MIA. At some point, I had to call him out. Why so nonchalant these days? Don't you care? Your casual vibes on big topics aren't doing it for me. But instead of a heart-to-heart, he snapped back.
Come on, I'm busting my chops daily. I'm wiped. Isn't it enough I'm even tuning in?
Seriously? That tone? Talk about condescension.
It's not that. I'm the main earner, remember? I could be way more intense. Others would have lost it with you by now.
With that, he stormed off. Where did that come from? It's like suddenly dealing with another teenager in the house. Except, he's worse. Post-Tiff, he became even more of a ghost, pulling late nights, working weekends. Was it work or was he dodging me? Our youngest picked up on his chilly vibe, wondering, "Did I do something wrong? Why is Daddy so distant?" My heart broke hearing that. I knew we needed to hash it out. Before I could corner him, he dropped a bombshell. One evening, he rolls in earlier than his recent night owl hours. He's been coming home at 2 a.m. or sometimes even in the morning. After he saw me in the living room, he told me we had to talk. Wondering what he had to say, I got up from the sofa. He looks me dead in the eyes, drops to one knee, and goes,
I messed up big time. I got someone else pregnant. I want to be with her because she's younger. Let's end this.
I was floored. Was I hearing things? Wait, an affair? She's expecting? And you want out? Without missing a beat, he spilled.
I love her. She's got our kid on the way. I need a fresh start.
Just like that, any lingering love fizzled out. Here, I thought we were a team, tackling life and kids together. Guess he had other plans. Funny enough, I'd recently snagged a divorce form. No idea why. It wasn't in the plans, but it's like something nudged me to it. Pondering this weird twist of fate, I whipped out that very form I had tucked away. Got the divorce papers right here.
Since when?
He looked like he'd been slapped with a wet fish, not expecting me to have those papers on hand. Call it a hunch? His face twisted in displeasure as he scribbled his signature on the papers. We're not done. The kids have a say in this too.
I got it. I'll crash in her place for now. I want to be there, especially with her being pregnant and all.
I slipped the papers into my bag, thinking he could have kept that last bit to himself. How do I break the news to the kids? I penciled that in for post-dinner chat tomorrow.
He had a fling? Seriously?
With those gray hairs?
That's rich.
The news hit the two oldest like a ton of bricks. I figured they'd side with me. But tuition fees alone on my paycheck? Still, I wanted them around. Their next move threw me from a loop.
We're rolling with Dad. Yup, that's the plan.
My heart sank a bit. Did I do something? You'd rather be with him? They both laughed.
Nah, we're Team Mom all the way. But you handling tuition and all that jazz solo? Let's make Dad foot that bill.
Hold up.
And hey, being the thorn in Dad and his girlfriend's side? Pure gold. Getting consistent child support out of him? Not betting on it. Especially with a baby on the way. No way you're dealing with his mess anymore.
Thanks, you two. I was floored by their wisdom. I then set up a family powwow.
Made up your mind?
Like a kid in a candy store, he jumped right to it. I wanted to roll my eyes at his impatience. Yes, I made the call. Our daughter's with me.
What? Just take them all.
His pitch went up a few notches. Clearly, 2 reminders of his past life didn't fit his shiny new picture.
We were picturing a cozy trio. Stepkids would throw a wrench in it. They're all yours.
No dice. The boys chose you.
Is that true? 100%. We're sticking with you, Dad. But with your mom, it'll be... She's a bit much at times. And your new gal, she's a looker, right? Pretty neat having a hip young mom. How'd you score someone like that? Am I that good? Top tier. Not every old dog has those tricks.
Basking in the flattery, he perked up.
Alright, we'll make this work. She'll warm up to you guys.
I smirked internally. Like putty in their hands. Everything's falling into place. Diving into property division, we struck a deal where I'd get child support for our oldest, lumped with alimony and a piece of the property pie. I opted for a one-time child support payout, landing me a hefty sum. Fast forward, and the divorce was finalized. I set up shop in an apartment with my daughter. She missed her brothers, but irregular visits kept her spirits up. Meanwhile, my part-time gig offered me a full-time spot. A no-brainer, really. Snagging it bumped up my earnings and came with sweet perks. Things were looking up. I kept grinding and squirreling away cash. 6 months post-split, my ex buzzed me. Picking up, I asked, "What's up?"
Help! Look, those guys are giving their stepmom the runaround. It's chaos.
You're talking about her sons? Spill.
They're high maintenance, and she's on edge. What have you been feeding them?
That got under my skin. This isn't on me. Maybe they've got some pent-up feelings about the affair. Could be she's catching the heat.
No way. They sang my praises before.
Look, not my circus anymore. Gotta go now. Bye.
Hold up. How about they crash with you?
Weren't they Team Dad?
They were, but she's ready to call it quits and bolt.
Bummer.
Cut the sarcasm. They're yours too. Take them.
Demand much? Fine, I'll mull it over.
Seriously? You're a godsend.
On one condition. Pay their child support and schooling up front.
How come?
I smell a bail. You might dump and run.
Not happening.
I need more than pinky promises. Pay up first.
Ugh. What's the damage?
$500,000 ballpark.
Steep.
but you got it. They're yours. Alrighty then. Keeping this end, he wired the $500,000. My gang was back together and my daughter was on cloud 9. Given my paycheck, making ends meet for the 4 of us was a walk in the park, especially with the upfront stash covering their schooling. Here's the kicker. Word about his fling spread like wildfire after I let it slip to an old coworker. The fallout was that he lost face at work, got bumped down a peg, and faced a paycheck trim. Mrs. New and Improved kicked him to the curb. Older and poorer wasn't her jam. Now he's rocking the twice-divorced, penny-pinching, empty-pocketed look. Karma, right? Over here it's sunshine and rainbows with my trio. My game plan is to keep hustling and soak in their milestones.
I ran into my ex at a fancy restaurant. He bragged about marrying a 20-something CEO. When I saw her, I burst into laughter. I'll enjoy his pain.
Isn't housework your job? Why do I have to do it just because you were hospitalized? You originally said I didn't have to do the cleaning, so I absolutely won't do it. If you understand, then hurry up and clean. If you don't like it, let's get a divorce. After being hospitalized for 3 days due to overwork, I returned home and was speechless at the deplorable condition of the house. I wondered how the inside of the house could turn into such a mess in just 3 days. The entrance was littered with muddy shoes, and the laundry piled up in the washing machine had an unpleasant smell. The kitchen sink was filled with unwashed pots, dishes, and cups piled up like a mountain. On the table, half-eaten takeout meals in empty containers were left, emitting a foul odor. The floor, of course, was covered in dust and felt gritty. Despite this situation, my husband blamed me for not cleaning and didn't lift a finger to help. And to top it off, he mentioned divorce. I didn't want to worry my kind-hearted in-laws, so I didn't want a divorce. I was more concerned about my in-laws than my husband, so I lowered my head to him. Can't you reconsider the divorce? My husband smirked as if he had expected me to say that. Sure, if you really don't want a divorce. My name is Johanna. I love my job. And before I knew it, I was in my 40s. Even so, I didn't mind it too much, but my parents felt sorry for me and started arranging matchmaking meetings. I initially declined the first few proposals, stating my love for work and how I absolutely didn't want to get married. However, the last proposal they brought up was a matchmaking with my childhood friend Melvin, who lives near my parents' house. A matchmaking with Melvin, huh? They've always been kind to me, so maybe I should at least meet him. Convinced by my parents, I agreed to meet him, but it had been a long time since I had seen my childhood friend, with whom I had been matched with. My parents are busy, so we only communicated over the phone. Even during the matchmaking process, I only met with my childhood friend. He is 5 years younger than me, and when we were kids, I used to hold his hand a lot. Yeah, I used to always follow you around, right? When you were little, you were such a cute, spoiled kid that I couldn't help but tease you. That's right. It was during a summer fair when we were little. We reminisced about old memories and hit it off. Melvin said it was okay for me to continue working, so we started dating, and a year later we got married. This happened when I was 38 years old. Since we did not have a wedding, Melvin, who became my husband, met my parents only at the introduction meeting, and after that, we did not see each other very often. To make up for it, my in-laws were very considerate and caring. I had often visited my husband's house since I was a child and knew his parents well. My in-laws were very happy that I was getting married. I'm so happy that you're coming to be our daughter-in-law, Johanna. Are you really sure about Melvin? Yeah. This guy has always lived with his parents and can't do anything, you know? Melvin had never lived on his own, and he always said that his parents had taken care of all the household chores and he couldn't do anything. Even so, I thought he could manage some things. Whatever he couldn't do, I could handle. That's what I believed. However, Melvin, the washing machine wasn't running. Just putting clothes in won't do it. You have to add detergent and press the button. Oh, right. I'm sorry. It turned out that Melvin couldn't do any housework at all. I tried to teach him a few times, but he couldn't seem to remember and kept making mistakes, leaving me to redo everything. I couldn't help but chuckle at my husband, who apologized with a look of embarrassment, thinking that some things never change from childhood. It's okay, I'll take care of it so you don't have to do anything. Oh, but could you at least handle the simple task of taking out the trash? I couldn't help it, so I decided to take on the household chores myself and asked my husband to handle the task of taking out the trash, something anyone could do. My husband is generally kind, but sometimes he has these moments that make me wonder. For example, when we were looking at my high school yearbook together, he pointed at a classmate and said,
"This person looks ugly, wow."
When talking about the school trip,
"Johanna, did you go on the school trip? I thought you couldn't because your family was poor."
he said these things seemingly without any ill intent. Even with the dishes I served for dinner,
"This tastes bad. I don't want any more."
he would openly express his thoughts, much like a child, and I wished he would be a bit more subtle in his words. I did bring this up with him once, but he responded with a sulky attitude and refused to listen, so it was impossible to have a conversation about it. By the time we reached the 3rd year of our marriage, my job became busier than ever during the peak season, with about a month of continuous overtime. I would come home late at night, leaving me with very little time for household chores. As a result, the house quickly became messy. "Hey, Melvin, could you help with some of the housework?" Seeing how challenging it had become for me alone, I asked Melvin for assistance, but he frowned in response.
"Didn't you say I didn't have to do it? Did you forget what you told me?"
He retorted this way and refused to listen. With no other option, I began waking up early in the morning and cleaning late at night, sacrificing my sleep to manage the household chores. This was amidst the fatigue from work, and one day I collapsed due to overwork while at work. I had to be taken to the hospital, where I stayed for 3 days.
"Johanna, are you okay?"
My in-laws came to visit, expressing their concern. They brought me a change of clothes and necessary items. "I'm sorry for causing you worry. I was just a bit tired." "Thank you for the things."
"Melvin couldn't make it because he's too busy with work and household chores. He just dropped off the stuff at the doorstep."
Although I felt a bit frustrated that he couldn't take some time off, I thought he might be trying his best to manage the unfamiliar household tasks, so I reconsidered. "You've been taking care of me since I was a child, haven't you?"
"It's okay, it's mutual. More importantly, I'm sorry Melvin couldn't come. He can be a handful like a child, but he's a sincere boy. We're getting older and you're our only support, so please take care of him."
"Of course." Despite feeling apologetic, I had no choice but to agree. My own parents traveled frequently during my childhood, so my nearby in-laws always looked after me and took me in. They were very kind and took good care of me. Because of their kindness and the gratitude I felt, I couldn't refuse their requests. However, when I returned home from the hospital and saw the state of the house, I couldn't believe my eyes. "What's going on here?" As I opened the front door, there were muddy shoes scattered all around and there was no place to step. When I tried to wash my hands in the bathroom, I found a pile of dirty, smelly laundry in the washing machine that hadn't been washed. In the living room, the kitchen sink was stacked high with unwashed pots, dishes, and cups. Next to them were leftover takeout food and empty containers emitting a foul smell. The floor was covered in dust, rough to the touch. How did it turn into such a mess in just 3 days? Even though I had just been discharged from the hospital, my head was already spinning. In the living room, my husband was lying on the sofa, relaxing and asleep. "I'm home. Hey, what's all this? The inside of the house looks like a dump. How about cleaning up a bit?" As I confronted my husband, he woke up suddenly and gave me an unpleasant glare.
"What's the rush?"
"The house is a mess. Weren't you supposed to take care of things while I was in the hospital? What have you been doing?" I scolded him, and in response, my husband shouted in anger.
"Shut up. Isn't housework your job? Why should I have to do it just because you decided to go to the hospital on your own? You originally said I didn't have to do any housework, so I absolutely won't."
You even said you would do all the housework, so I've put up with it." My husband became furious and yelled back at me. I was taken aback by his sudden change in demeanor, but it seemed like he was very upset about being scolded by me. I had always been the caring older sister figure who would do anything if asked, so perhaps he had expected an easy life after marriage. He uttered in frustration, "This has been disappointing." I had thought that the reason he couldn't come to visit was because he was working hard on the housework, so I felt betrayed. I was further perplexed by his attitude. What's going on all of a sudden? Then my husband began speaking as if he had given up on hiding something. "I'm dating a wealthy CEO's daughter in her 20s now. She's much younger and more attractive than you, and her family is rich. Plus, she's an excellent cook. You're nothing like her. There's no benefit for me in being with you anymore, so let's get a divorce." His words left me in shock. My husband had been having an affair, while I was busy with work and house chores. I hadn't noticed his change during those busy days. "I'll pay you alimony, you know. About $1,000. My husband, unfazed by my reaction, said with a laugh, "I should probably divorce such a husband quickly. I understand that, but my in-laws were on my mind. My in-laws had asked me to take care of Melvin. If I divorced him in this state, it would only burden my elderly in-laws. Thinking about that, I couldn't bring myself to agree to a divorce. Could you reconsider the divorce?" When I lowered my head to my husband, he gave me a triumphant look. "I didn't know you liked me that much. Fine, we won't divorce, but you'll do all the housework, from taking out the trash and everything else. I won't do anything. Also, I plan to quit my current job and change careers, so you'll have to cover all the living expenses during that time. Oh, and improve your cooking skills. If you can't accept these conditions, then it's divorce." Understood. Reluctantly, I accepted these terms, feeling like a servant. A week later, my in-laws, who came to check on me, visited my home, so I opened the door. "Johanna, how are you feeling?" When my parents-in-law saw my face, they turned pale. "Is something wrong?" "Never mind that. Just look in the mirror." Being dragged by my mother-in-law, I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror as instructed. There, I was shocked. What is this? In the mirror, I saw a gaunt, disheveled figure with pale skin and a lifeless expression. I had been so busy with work, house chores, and taking care of my husband that I never took the time to look at myself in the mirror. To think I looked like this. My parents-in-law, upon seeing my condition, cried, "I'm so sorry, Johanna. You should just leave Melvin. We are truly sorry for burdening you. You don't need to worry about us. Please, divorce that guy." They repeated their apologies many times. Afterward, we had a family meeting and the divorce was finalized, with my husband agreeing to pay proper alimony, not just the $1,000 he initially suggested. It seemed my husband never had any intention of continuing our married life. He had merely used me as an ATM for living expenses during his period of unemployment. My parents-in-law were furious with him and demanded an apology, but I, exhausted, declined their request and returned to my parents' home. The alimony was successfully transferred, and a month after the divorce was finalized, my parents had reserved a fancy restaurant for me today. As I waited for my parents, who were running late due to work, I was surprised to hear someone say, "Huh?" I turned around and saw my ex-husband standing there with a smirk on his face. Beside him was his new wife. "Isn't it, Johanna? You've aged, haven't you? You don't look 41. And you, just because you got alimony from me doesn't mean a place like this is suitable for a poor person like you, right?" My ex-husband said, making a mockery of me. "Leah is completely different. Her face and skin are much better than yours. A woman in her 20s is definitely fresher than a old hag. Plus, I'm happy because I married the president's daughter. Divorcing a poor person like you was the right choice." My ex-husband started boasting about his new spouse. When he mentioned a name, it sounded familiar. I couldn't help but stare intently at the new spouse. The moment the new spouse awkwardly looked away, I suddenly realized. I see, that's how it was. Melvin, you've been mocking me for so long, but the foolish one here is you. I'll give it back to you twice as hard. Understanding everything, a little smirk escaped from me. Ignorance is bliss. My condolences.
What do you mean? Don't make excuses just because you're frustrated.
As my ex-husband continued to confront me, I explained to him. Your new spouse, Leah, was my classmate, you know.
Huh? What are you talking about? Leah is in her 20s. Do you seriously think you can pass for being in your 20s yourself?
No, Leah is different. She's the same age as me, but she's lied about her age. She's probably had some plastic surgery to look younger. Do you remember when you saw my high school album and called someone ugly? That was Leah. I recognized her because there's a resemblance. Saying this, Johanna's husband looked wide-eyed at his new spouse. No, you got it wrong. As the new spouse denied it, while acting suspiciously, I managed to guess her personal information. Come to think of it, you had a distinctive mole on the back of your neck, didn't you? I remember because our classmates used to tease you about it. Upon hearing their accusation, the husband turned pale. It seemed to be true. When confronted by her husband, the new spouse confessed. It turns out, the new spouse had a complex about her face and ended up repeatedly getting plastic surgery, leading to a dependence on it. She also lied about their age. My ex-husband was dumbfounded by the confession of his new spouse, but
I have more money than you,
he shouted. I sighed at my ex-husband's words. It seems like you've been mistaken for 41 years, but I'm not poor. My parents were busy running a company, that's all. In other words, I'm a president's daughter, and our family is reasonably well off. It seems my ex-husband used to think of me as a poor child who was often left in others' care when I was young, assuming my parents were desperately working. However, it turns out it was my ex-husband's parents who received financial support by taking care of me. While my parents' house was small for our family to live in, they mostly stayed at the company overnight, so the house was originally purchased for my use by them. By the way, the reason I worked so hard was not because I was poor, but because I didn't want to lose to my parents. I wanted to show them I could succeed on my own. When I told him this, my ex-husband was in a state of shock. That's when my parents arrived.
I've heard everything.
Dad is furious and giving a lecture to my ex-husband. Mom is smiling faintly, but it's the face she makes when she's angry. In this unexpected situation, my ex-husband turns pale and panics. Then the surprised manager arrives due to my dad's orders and tries to kick them out.
What are you doing? Leah is the president's daughter, you know. And yet, do you really think it's okay to treat her like this?
In response to the shouting ex-husband, my mom chuckles. You don't know anything, dear. Her family's in the red and on the brink of bankruptcy. Their company has so few employees you can count them on one hand. It's a tiny, struggling business.
That's...
My mother revealed the truth, and my ex-husband and his new spouse seemed on the verge of starting a fight, eventually being escorted out by the manager. I couldn't help but think, serves him right. Afterward, my parents sincerely apologized to me. My parents talked about how they pushed for my marriage to my ex-husband just because his parents were nice people. I didn't blame my parents because I had similar thoughts. Furthermore, they insisted that next time they would find someone good, but I politely declined. I'm already in my 40s, my career is going well, and I've built a solid professional foundation. From now on, I intend to live my own life and trust any good encounters to the course of destiny. A year later, I received a message from my ex-husband. It seems that at first he had a good time with his new spouse, but as my mother predicted, the new spouse's company went bankrupt. With no money left, the new spouse couldn't afford cosmetic maintenance, resulting in an inability to maintain a youthful appearance. She ended up looking older than their actual age. My ex-husband tried to get a divorce, but seems his new spouse refused, reasoning that they had finally gotten married. Furthermore, my ex-husband has been abandoned by both his ex-in-laws and can't return to his family home. He's also been shunned by friends, so it seems he has no one to turn to. He doesn't have a job, and even part-time work doesn't last long for him. He came to me asking for alimony, claiming he's in financial trouble. But of course, there's no way I'll give him any. When I told him that if he contacts me again, I'll consult a lawyer, he never reached out again. I quit the job I was doing and joined my parents' company. Although I'm currently busy working as the future president, I find my work fulfilling and lead very satisfying days.
My husband divorced me for looking exhausted after giving birth. A few years later, when we re-encountered, I finally took revenge.
My name is Taylor. I'm 37 years old. I started my own company when I was 31. Business has been going well, and I have around 20 employees now. It's a friendly and fun workplace. I'd like to tell you about the ups and downs of my life before starting this company. I got married at 27 and had a child at 29. When I was single, I worked as a web designer for a company. I didn't really have a strong desire to get married, but I was set up on a blind date with a guy through my family acquaintance. Leo was the same age as me and worked as a salesperson for a big company. He came on strong right from the beginning and proposed before long. I ended up quitting my job and becoming a homemaker as he wanted, but it didn't take me long to realize his true nature. First of all, he couldn't detach from his parents. Later, I found out that our marriage was primarily to please them, and anyone would be okay as long as it made them happy. So he often went to see them on weekends, leaving me alone at home. On top of that, he was pretty self-centered. He was raised as an only child and was spoiled by them. I had to prepare a fresh towel in advance when he took a shower, and if I ever forgot, he got extremely angry. In the morning, I had to lay out his suit and everything he needed on the bed. Dinner had to have at least 5 different vegetables, and frozen food or pre-made dishes were a big no-no. Not only that, but I always had to keep the entire house in an immaculate state. I had to vacuum and mop every morning and evening. Of course, he never lifted a finger to help with any of this. Despite that, I tried my best because I was his wife. Soon after, I became pregnant. Both families were overjoyed, and I hoped that this would be the catalyst for him to change a bit. I was completely wrong. When I had morning sickness and couldn't do housework as usual, he got furious and berated me for not being able to do what everyone else could. As I did my best with chores with my growing belly, he just played games on his phone. Not only was there never a sign of him wanting to help, but he seems to have no awareness of becoming a father. I gave birth to a baby girl named Eva. My expectations were in vain, and his selfishness grew even worse after the birth. When I returned home from the hospital, I was greeted with a huge pile of dishes. He hadn't done any housework at all while I was out. I had to juggle taking care of the newborn while straightening up the house for a while. As usual, he never showed any gesture of appreciation whatsoever. On the contrary, he said that I should have been able to finish something as basic as that in no time. Furthermore, he mocked me about my post-pregnancy weight gain.
You are a fooler. You look like a meatball. Hey, meatball, answer me.
He looked at me with a contemptuous gaze. According to my doctor, my weight gain was entirely within the standard range. I had planned to start a diet at some point, but this really got on my nerve. He wouldn't help with housework and looked down on me after giving birth. Cut it out! When I finally yelled at him, he angrily stood up, knocking over his chair.
Who the heck are you talking to? I'm the breadwinner here. You, as my wife, should just do as I say. Besides, anyone can handle housework. Don't act so high and mighty.
I was so furious that I couldn't even respond. From then on, he constantly made fun of my appearance.
Hey, Meatball, is dinner ready? Oh, here comes the sumo wrestler. Do you even know what losing weight means?
He mocked me as he pleased. I had to endure it, because if I said anything back, I thought that chairs might start flying like in a wrestling brawl. Above all, I had to protect Eva. He didn't help with housework or childcare at all. Taking care of the crying baby, changing diapers, and doing household chores all at once was tough. I went through each day with no makeup and wearing just the glasses, looking completely worn out. I had no time for anything. There were even days when I could only go to the bathroom once in the morning. Still, I encouraged myself, thinking that this was what being a mother meant. One day, while Leo was criticizing my appearance as usual, he suddenly brought up divorce.
You've become a mess ever since you had Eva. Let's get a divorce. I like the younger girl from the office now. By the way, Eva looks just like you, chubby like a meatball.
What did you just say? I couldn't believe my ears.
You've been overweight for a long time. I can't take it anymore. I like slender women. Pack your stuff and get out ASAP.
His argument was completely absurd. What nonsense are you talking about? I can't do that. Confused, I immediately contacted his parents. Leo wants a divorce because I had a child and lost my looks. Can you please put some sense into him? Contrary to my frantic state, my in-laws remained indifferent. If he says so, it must be true. It's evidence that you haven't made enough effort. What have you been doing? You shouldn't upset my son. I had no choice but to despair.
Get out already! I have no interest in someone who's given up being a woman.
How are Eva and I supposed to live from now on?
I don't care. You should learn to stand on your own feet. Bye-bye, meatball mom and baby.
I had reached my limit with his repeated insults. That very day, I decided to live with Eva. I didn't cry. To be precise, I couldn't even cry. I was rather outraged by him, who had insulted not only me, but also our own daughter. With nowhere else to go, I turned to my parents for help. They had my younger brother and his wife living with them, and they had a baby of their own, roughly the same age as Eva. I thought it would be a burden for them if we moved in, but I had no other option. When I asked if we could stay for a while, both my parents and my brother's family warmly welcomed us. I shared the whole story with them and mentioned my marriage was over. They encouraged me to stay as long as I needed. That was when I finally shed tears. I couldn't stop crying, feeling their warm support. Then my brother's wife, Emma, made a suggestion. You probably need a lawyer now. I used to work as a secretary at a law firm before I got married. A friend of mine still works there, so I can introduce you. Thanks to her, I met a competent lawyer a few days later. Sophia was in her early 40s with her own divorce experience, and she was very empathetic and helpful during our consultations. We had several rounds of divorce negotiations, but we couldn't reach an agreement easily. Leo refused to pay child support. Sophia, after a brief preamble about wanting to tell me her personal opinion, said, "Your husband is arguing that you've neglected your duties as a woman and prioritized the child. He's like a selfish child in a man's body. He married you to please his parents, and controlling you is the goal of his marriage. I don't want to discourage you from pursuing child support, but I also think it might be best to completely sever ties now. Both he and his parents are unreasonable people. Instead of dealing with them, I think looking toward the future is more constructive." She spoke seriously, and something inside me snapped. The reasons for divorce were so flimsy. The insult he hurled at Eva at the brink of separation was too much. Dealing with him any longer was unbearable. I wanted to be free from him as soon as possible. I made up my mind. I was determined to raise Eva on my own and find happiness beyond this point. From now on, you need to work hard to support your daughter. Are you really ready? I sure am, I replied firmly, making a commitment to face the future head-on. When the divorce was filed, I resumed my work as a freelance web designer. Fortunately, it was a popular field, and I started getting steady work even as a freelancer. I worked tirelessly, designing day and night, and juggling nursing and childcare along the way. As a freelancer, I launched a website and made full use of social media, like X and Instagram for marketing. As a result of my efforts, I was able to earn roughly the same income as Leo in about a year. Moreover, I won an excellent award in a web design contest, which brought in even more work. Then, I started my own design company. During the times when I couldn't manage everything on my own, Emma helped as a secretary. I also had the assistance of part-time employees, allowing the company to run smoothly. As the business grew, I realized the need for sales efforts. So my brother, who had previously worked for a major advertising agency, quit his job and became the sales manager. With his natural business acumen, he built on the social media-focused marketing I had been doing and expanded into advertising using traditional media. The performance soared in no time. As my company gained recognition, I started paying more attention to my appearance. At the time of the separation, I was always struggling, with no makeup and just wearing glasses, while my determination remained the same. Being in the position of a CEO meant I couldn't help but be conscious of the perception of my employees and clients. So I graduated from the plain look, invested in branded suits and bags, got a neat professional hairstyle, and kept my makeup subtle enough not to appear overbearing. I realized that my confidence and pride as a business owner were reflected in my appearance. One day after work, I went to a restaurant in Chelsea with Emma. It had a great atmosphere and was one of my favorites. The staff were friendly and always recommended the daily specials, so choosing a dish was easy. Above all, despite being an upscale restaurant, it didn't have a snobbish atmosphere, which I liked. While we were chatting at our table, I noticed a familiar face approaching. It was Leo.
You seem to be doing well.
He brought water to our table, wearing a big smile on his face. He was working as a waiter at this restaurant. He acted over-friendly, unlike a typical waiter, and the arrogance he had before our divorce flashed through my mind, making me feel nauseated. "Oh, it's you. You seem to be doing fine too," I responded with a smile. After our divorce, I had heard through the grapevine that he had lost his job due to his relationships with female colleagues. I hadn't heard much about his whereabouts since then, but my relatives who frequented this restaurant recently informed me that he had started working as a waiter there. Emma and I had come there out of curiosity, pretending not to know anything.
You're looking great.
His attitude, as if he had forgotten the way he had ridiculed me in the past, immediately put me in battle mode. "You're annoying. Get out of my sight."
Come on, don't be so cold. You're running your own business, right? I was surprised to see an article in the magazine. Let me work for you, huh?
I couldn't believe his audacity. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about.
Oh, come on. We used to be married, you know. How about giving it another try?
Quit joking around. Go away. You're ruining my dinner. I made a shooing gesture with my hand. Immediately, he started fuming.
How dare you give me an attitude?
The one without the right attitude here is you. I'm a customer.
What the heck? A woman like you acting all high and mighty. It pisses me off. Don't forget you used to live off me.
He has been divorced by me and fired from his job, but showed absolutely no remorse. It was amazing how people like him existed in the world. Amidst the heated exchange, I remained strangely calm. Then, the owner of the restaurant appeared. What seems to be the matter, ma'am? Charlotte and I had been friends since the restaurant opened. We had known each other since her early days as a waitress, and we shared a strong bond as business owners. I heard our waiter here raising his voice. Is there any trouble? She asked with a concerned expression. He has been making baseless accusations against me. Can you please do something? As soon as I finished my sentence, she glared at Leo. Why are you causing trouble?
She and I are married, and she started a new company, so I asked her for a job. But then, she suddenly got mad, and...
Let's clarify first that we are not married anymore. He insulted me and our daughter, and we divorced. We are strangers now. And yet, he's directing this kind of behavior at a customer. I could see that Charlotte's face was turning as red as a lobster.
She's got a big mouth for a woman.
His excuse made absolutely no sense. What? For a woman? I'm a woman too, you know. Her anger had finally reached its peak.
Oh no, I mean, you're different, not a woman. I mean, not like that.
What are you saying? I absolutely despise people who discriminate based on gender the most. We don't need someone like you in our restaurant. You are fired. Get out. Her anger voice echoed through the restaurant.
Oh no, I apologize. I'm really sorry. I have nowhere to go if I get fired from here. Please spare me.
He pleaded with the owner with a pitiful expression. You should learn to stand on your own feet. I smiled at him. He was dragged away by security, wailing, and was kicked out of the restaurant. According to Charlotte, he had been hopping from one job to another after he was fired from his previous job. She pitied him and hired him as a waiter, but he ended up repaying that kindness in this manner. Truly a case of getting what he deserved. I had never seen someone fit the phrase, "You reap what you sow," so perfectly. Afterward, my company continued to do well. What's more, I will be graduating from being single soon. I met another entrepreneur with a divorce history at a cross-industry networking event. Fellow souls with similar scars, we quickly became good friends. I have a daughter, and he's alone. We took our time to strengthen our bonds with Eva and our families. We decided to start a new family together by next spring. My new partner is loving and kind for a change. Leo, on the other hand, according to the investigation of my competent secretary Emma, he remains unemployed and single after being kicked out of that restaurant. Despite how much he used to make fun of my appearance, he now seems to be displaying a grotesque example of middle-aged flat. Fate and the passage of time can be cruel. My life has been like a roller coaster ride. I got married, had a child, got divorced, started working, and established a company. I've learned the meaning of you reap what you sow all too well. If there is someone out there feeling like they're in the middle of a dark tunnel with no end in sight, I want to say this. There is always an exit. There is no night without a dawning. By the way, the lawyer who supported me through my divorce is now our company's legal advisor.